So after, you know, going to those couple expos and meeting Bill and then joining his Citizens Agents for Joint Intelligence, you know, I had moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And before that, I had meant to go spend a couple weeks with Bill at his home and research center, because he had a little research center set up in either St. John's or Sholo, Arizona, I forget which. And I wanted to go there and really get in depth with Bill and get to know him a little more and so forth, because I really, really trusted this man and believed in what he was doing. So, June of '94, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and met up with my best friend who was already there, Matt. And we used to listen to Bill all the time on shortwave radio, the hour of the times. It was just, we just sit around the radio listening to Bill. It's just like, so when I look back on it, kind of funny, because this was right at the beginning of the internet days. You know, this is '94. Internet came out in '93. I didn't start surfing until '96. So anyway, what had happened was Bill had teamed up with a lady by the name of Linda Thompson. And my feelings on her were that she was just too militant. And to be honest with you, my heart feeling was that she was an agent implant into the Patriot movement. And her job was to rile up, you know, people to do something drastic, which is what they were planning to do. And, you know, I have tapes and all that stuff packed away. And just like I said, I'm doing this verbatim without, you know, rehearsing or anything. So forgive me if some dates seem, you know, what have you, or I seem a little confused. It's been 16 years since I first met Bill. So, excuse me, you understand that, you know, if I seem a little unsure or something, that's why. So August 1st of 1994, Linda was arrested for something, I don't remember what. And Bill was arrested a few weeks later, I believe on August 21st, 1994. And sometime in that time frame, they had discussed getting together a militia and patriots to do an armed march on in Washington, D.C. Now, I understood, you know, at that time, the reason for it, and was kind of in agreement with it, because, let me explain. Me and, you know, a lot of people who knew what was going on then, we had it with the government. I mean, we had just went through, you know, Waco, Texas, you know, Ruby Ridge, and, you know, Oklahoma City didn't happen until, you know, the next year, I believe, 95, right? Yeah. And so we were disgusted already with, you know, a lot of our liberties and rights were being just taken away and so forth. It was a real kind of touchy year where, you know, where things were, the dark side looks like it was kind of winning. So, you know, when they started talking about it, you know, we understood it, but at that time in 1994, people were still asleep, and they wouldn't have understood what was going on. The government would have came in there with tanks, crushed us, said, you know, the right-wing white supremacist militia tried to overthrow the government. Here, I'm a black guy out there, but, you know, I'm considered a white supremacist, right? You know, and it just would have been a massacre. They would have suspended the Constitution, instituted martial law, and I'm glad and thank God it didn't happen or go down that way, but I think we were this close in 1994 and 95 to going to something major like that happening, really. So we got through that. And, you know, Bill, the next incident that happened was not a major deal, but I'll explain. Bill was a very direct man. He didn't bullshit around too much. I mean, you know, Bill had a little sense of humor. You'd have to know him to understand it. But sometimes, you know, Bill would be very, like, you know, straightforward. Like in a lecture, like he'll be showing a videotape of Kennedy, the sacrificed king, and people would be like, well, I can't see it very well. And he'd say, well, I'm sorry, but I can't help the time that you got here. You should have got here earlier and got a better seat. Just straight out. I mean, that's the way Bill was. So, you know, one day when I called him, because we talk frequently, you know, on the phone, and I check in with him, what's up, what's new. And there were two Kevins. You know, sometimes he would, you know, ask, you know, which Kevin? Oh, Kevin Perteete. Okay, you know, so, hey, how you doing? And one particular time I called, and he seemed, you know, we all have our bad days. And he seemed like he was in a bad mood or something. And I don't recall exactly what he had said, but, you know, something to the effect, you know, well, so what do you want, you know, and you know, I'm busy, you know, I gotta go. I'm not sure he hung up on me or not, but, you know, and at that point, I was just like, well, you know, I think I'm gonna start distancing myself from Bill, and just I'll follow him on, you know, the radio, and you know, like I said, at that time the internet was just coming out, and I didn't start using it till '96. But when that time came, you know, I just checked up on his website, and so, you know, I called and I talked to him a few times after that and so forth, you know, sometimes. But pretty much I had distanced myself around 90, I'd say 7 and 8. I really didn't talk to Bill that I remember anymore. So, you know, at that point in time, that was you know where I stood with Bill, and that was my feeling of breaking off. Now I want to share this with you real quick. The New York Times National, Thursday, April 27, 1995 issue. This is entitled "Terror in Oklahoma: On the Air and on the Net. The Far Right, New Medium for Far Right's Message, Shortwave Radio." And here, you know, here's the article. And that's not Bill Cooper. It's just a little highlighted section, if you see in my highlight yellow, that they talk about Bill. And this is what they said. William Cooper, a white supremacist and added militia supporter, has been broadcasting on WWCR 5 nights a week since 1992. On November 21st, 1994, he issued this call to arms. Some in the militia will begin receiving direction in the form of legal justification, training, and action, and battle plans. Use these materials as they become available. The value of these items will be obvious when you receive them. Now, let me say this. First of all, Bill Cooper was no white supremacist. That's a bunch of bullshit. And, you know, this is what these media people label you. If anything, Bill was an advocate for black people and rights. He never made an anti-Semitic remark that I ever heard. He stood up for women. He was married to Annie. This was his second wife, I believe his second family. He had a first wife and family who I knew nothing, you know, don't know any of them. But Annie I talked to sometimes on the phone. She was Filipino, and he had a daughter, you know, by her, actually two. First one was Dorothy, they call her Pooh. And I didn't know the second one that he'd had because I had broken off from him at the time. But anyway, you know, it's just a bunch of garbage about him being a supremacist and all that. In the next segment, I'm going to get into his untimely death and the events of that horrible time in 2001. So stay tuned.